Hello, Mark Sargent, and we will follow the second part of the Penguin tutorial. Alright, now the environment is adjusted, the Penguin reference images are there. Here is our base box, and we will model the base box and we will change it. But first of all, we have to make sure that this box is at the center. To do that, we having to switch to the move mode. So selecting move is selected, right click move. That also works on W as a hotkey, and at the bottom line the coordinate reference system is showing that we have a slight offset. So because by default the pivot point, that's actually the location of the pivot point, is indicated here, the pivot point is created at the center, bottom center of this box. We can make sure that if the pivot point, if this is set to 0, the model itself will be set to 0 as well. So whenever you press a right click above the arrows, so hovering over the arrows and pressing right click, it will zero out the value. Right, when you're holding down left mouse, again dragging, that will instantly update the transformation, and right click will zero this out. Okay, now F4 is our friend, so F4 will turn on the wireframe. It will be really important, so it's practically impossible to work without F4 turning on. And right now we have no absolute information at all. This is a simple box, and it's really hard to modify it. But take a look, modifications, and what we can do while it is still a simple standard primitive. So this is a standard primitive box, and we have a couple adjustments. So first of all, the length segments. Take a look what it changes. So one, okay, it gives me one center line, okay, but right now what we basically need is a width segment in the front, because we will delete this half of the penguin, and it's easier to make and find the center if you have a divided face up front. Then it's easier to select this half and delete it, and the height segments, and that will be about 4 is fine. Of course you can add more, and it will make easier to, and it can make accurate, much more accurate follow up on the silhouette, but it is also a little bit confusing. So if you have too many points, too many segments too early, it is really hard on the head for a starting point. Right now I will just switch back to 4, so height segments 4. Mapping coordinates are done. Okay, it's not important for this case, and now we are ready to roll. How to move on? If you can press a right click above the box in the modifier stack to convert it into an editable poly. I will do that. Do it for now. And as you see, something updated here. And also, just let me show before I move on the other option. When your model is selected, I'm pressing Ctrl Z to undo. But when a model is selected, you can press a right click and convert to, and now picking convert to editable poly as an option. Okay, so what's up next? We have plenty of adjustments for an editable poly, but first we need some room here. I will drag this Explorer and close it. Here is the icon, so whenever I want to get it back, I can just click on, and these are both two variations, so Scene Explorer and Layer Explorer. That's actually the same, the system is different here. So I'll close it, and what's up next? Here's the ribbon. The ribbon is activated, but it is just a pain to use it this way. So we want to keep it open. Now here we have two tiny buttons, and this is a struggle with 3dsmax, and most of the students, when we start this, when you click on this tiny show full ribbon button, you have to wait for a couple seconds, okay? When you're clicking on and off, 3dsmax will just not switch. It will just somehow lack of active interactivity. So it takes time to load the entire user interface and change it. It is a technical problem. It's not really 3dsmax's issue. It is just takes time to load all the buttons and change the graphic user interface and redraw everything. Okay, but now it is done. So please make sure that you know the concept of this ribbon. This ribbon is interactive. That means if you have no object selected, it will show no information. It will always show the information that relates to your model, that relates to your object. So because it is an editable poly, it will show features of editable poly. But just take a look. I will switch to modeling. Right now I have these sets. This is my inventory to create a content, modify this item. I'm pressing Alt W. But I also have a right click menu, and I also have the modify panel. All right, now whenever you are working with an editable poly type of object, in front of the editable poly there will be a tiny sign, so you can open up the editable poly feature tree. And this tree, not feature tree, I'm sorry, it's just a sub-object tree. You can access to vertices, you can access to edges, borders, polygons, elements. These are the ingredients of the stuff, but you have to remember that what you are using and what you're searching for here, it needs to be related to the actual level you are working on. So if you want to create a vertex extrusion is not the same as edge extrusion, okay? Even the icon is a little bit different, right? So please remember that. I will always tell, and you have to keep an eye on this, what you want to do. If you want to extrude an edge, you have to make sure that edge level is selected and you are selecting the extrusion from the edge menu. And also, you can find everything here in the ribbon, but you can also find it right click. Here's the extrusion. Here's the extrusion settings. Here's the extrusion at the ribbon. Here's the extrusion settings at the ribbon. And you can also load up the classic modify panel sidebar. Here you have edit edges, extrude, and extrude settings. Okay, it is the same. My personal opinion, I use a mixture of these because right click is the fastest, but right click is limited to the most popular operations. However, 90% is just fine. Some adjustment is easier to make in the modify panel. For example, the soft selection, because you have a good feedback, you see everything. You can also adjust it here, but it's not that, so it's not all the time that self-explanatory. Once you are getting used to the soft selection here, it's fine, but in many cases it is not. Okay, I will turn this off. End of explanation. So we will jump in and create the outline first. Okay, now vertex level. This is the first level, and I'm pressing L to the left view. And of course, what's our problem? I don't see the edges and I don't see through. How to turn on the edges? F4. How to make see through the model? Alt X. Right, and now I'm selecting these points by dragging a window. It is important. I will maximize the viewport back. Just slightly change the layout to make it easier to follow. Alright, whenever you're just clicking on a point, it is just selecting a single point. But look what happens. How many points we have? We have 3 points. right here. Okay, so when you're dragging, you're selecting everything that is within the window, so it's all 3 points are selected. Okay, so then we will move these points just along the x-axis. Okay, so this representing, depending on the actual 3D window, the axis may flip. So here it is x-axis, but when you activate the perspective, it will tell you it's y-axis. Okay, but while you are in the left view and the left view active, the gizmo flips over and shows the same and matching direction. Okay, so you can use the perspective as a feedback of your actions, how many points you are selecting, what angle you are using, what direction you are moving these points. Okay, so I'm just quickly dragging and selecting. It's nothing fancy. I'm just I just want to follow the outline. Okay, if it is hard to trace because the grid is disturbing, you can press G by turning off and pressing and turning off the grid. But don't forget, this is not a perspective viewport. This is still a left viewport, and I don't rotate. I'll just use the simple middle mouse button. I don't use any type of rotation here. I want to keep and maintain this side view as a side view. Okay, the tail will be extruded from this polygon, and this is just slightly lifted. All right, now how to move on? Do we really need the double-sided chest? No, it's okay from the side view because it's really easy. I'm sorry, I just rotated it. G, pressing degree. It's really easy to operate these 3 points from the side view, but do we really need to, for example, try to left and right and make a match and trying to follow? No, it's not optimal. So I will undo, and instantly I need to delete this half of the body of the bird. To make it easier, I can actually select vertices and hit delete. So this will delete my polygons as well. So that's one option, by deleting the points. If a point is deleted, it will remove everything that is attached to the point. Or you can switch to polygons, select these by dragging a window, and what the window touches, that will be selected and highlighted in red. So this is the selection. I'm pressing delete. Now it's removed. Alright, super fine. Going back to the front view, so right now I will need the front view, Alt W to maximize the front view, and Alt X to make it see through. And what I will do, I will select 2 points. How do I know these are 2 points? The perspective is not opened. So when you are in a full window and you're selecting points, how do you know it is one or more? You can get a hint at the selection on the sidebar. So if you take a look at the sidebar here, now you have 2 vertices selected. So when I'm clicking on again the point, it will tell vertex number 5 is selected. It's not 5 pieces of vertices, it is vertex number 5. So when I'm dragging a window, it will say 2 vertices. So that's the plural for vertex. 2 vertices selected, and I'm ready to move it slightly, a little bit lower here, even higher a bit, wider, and of course a little bit narrower. And now Alt W, take a look what I just did. I will increase it here, the width, and that is fine. Okay, now what's up next? I still need something to make it symmetrical. I need a modifier. Now what? First of all, I will turn Alt X again to turn back it to shaded mode, so it's not a see-through anymore. And what I basically need is a symmetry modifier on top of this. Um, to exit from edition, uh, basically you have to exit from vertex mode. So I'll click on Editable Poly. Now it is selected, and I will leave this way. I just left the editing mode. From the modifiers, I need symmetry. So modifiers, that is parametric deformers, and no, not really. I will use the modifier list from here. So modifier list and symmetry will be presented here. S and Y symmetry, it's the end of the row. Okay, now what happened? The box just disappeared. So if I'm turning off the visibility of the symmetry modifier, that left is still there, but symmetry made us a trick. You just have to know that the center of symmetry, the mirror plane of symmetry, is absolutely placed at the pivot point. So when you have a model and you have its pivot point, we are just set it to 0, 0, 0. So now it's everything in the very, very dead center. So here in the 3D scene, it just made a mistake, not really a mistake, but you just need to flip it over. Okay, mirror axis is by default is X, so that's left and right in 3dsmax. Epsilon, Y is back and forth, and Z is up and down. So Z right now, so the flip is it's just mirroring the emptiness. So I will flip it over, and this is the Z, this is the Y, and this is X, and now we have it. Okay, please keep in mind, whenever you go down the level, so this is the highest level now in a hierarchy, we have a symmetry modifier on top of the editable poly. The sidebar will always show the corresponding information. So the ribbon will show the corresponding information. So if you want to add and edit edges or anything, you have to make sure that the edge level is activated. So by clicking in and setting an edge, then you will be able to see all the options. Okay, now what? We still need one other modifier, because it's not a good idea to keep this model this way. It's not really a penguin, it's some kind of a wood carving, really, really basic. Okay, if you're looking for the rounded shape to get this penguin actually ready to swim, you need to add something more, and that is turbosmooth. Turbosmooth is a subdivision modifier. It creates, generally, it divides the polygons. So what happens? I'm turning it off. We have a polygon here, this, and defined by 4 vertices. And when turbosmooth is enabled and visible, you can see that this was the original polygons. This was the original polygon. Turbosmooth subdivides, so it divides that polygon by 2 at the half each direction, and from one polygon now you have 4 polygons, and the edges are averaged, and this averaging, this is the rounding effect of the turbosmooth. Okay, now increase the iterations, but be careful with this. It can really increase the number of polygons, and you don't really want too many polygons. So I will keep it this way. Now what happens? Is it a round shape? It's not a round shape. It is rounded, but it still reminds me a box. This is called boxy, so this is not a good model to deal with. This is not round. It has no flow. So you want to get rid of it and try to maintain a flow to keep a natural roundness of the models. And you want to um, step away from this boxy shape. Okay, now we are going back to the editable poly level because we want to have access to all the adjustments. Editable poly is active, and right now I will switch to edge mode. Okay, um, till this day we just use the vertices, but right now we are in edge mode. The ribbon is activated. The ribbon is showing the edge operations, and now take a look. If we are turning on the show and results, when you click on the show and result, you will see the final model. You will see the effects of each modifier. Symmetry is affected. I'm turning off the eye, but if the eye is on, the visibility is on, symmetry is shown. Turbosmooth is shown because show and result is there. So F4 will turn off our wireframe, but as you see, because show and result is turned on, we have the gizmo, this cage, this isolate indicated with orange. So you can select this item, and if I turn, just selected one single edge in here in the middle, and when I'm turning off the show and result button, it will show the original edge that was just selected. Okay, so these two meshes are the same. The only difference is the visibility mode, so how it indicates. If you want to see the show and result, then you use the show and result button. All right, now for now, what we are looking for, we are looking for an edge, but we want to maintain quad polygons. So when we are selecting two edges, we are ready to connect them. Connection is always perpendicular, so you cannot connect one single edge. You have to select at least two edges. So the fastest way for me is right click and connect. And now it's done. I've connected this two. What the problem is, it's a good edge, the placement is fine. I want it to the side. Okay, you will see why I want to do this. But before I'm moving on, just let me tell you that what happened. The problem with a single pair selection and connection, this is not a quad anymore because we just inserted a new vertex. So this is a 5-point polygon. It's not a quad. This way I will undo, and our goal is to trying and maintaining a entire ring selection by using a ring, connecting them, and now everything is quad. 4 points, 4 points, everything 4 points. So we want to keep it and maintain it. This is the reason why we are not starting instantly with hundreds of polygons, hundreds of segments, because the more segments you have more things to work on and work out to keep in mind, and always dealing with the less number of vertices and of course the quads. So we want to trying to avoid triangles. Now in explanation, this is our model, and I just made a copy by shift and drag, and I will delete by remove a edge. So when the turbosmooth is added, this is what happens. If I add more, we have plenty of details around here, but these polygons here are still quite large and still forming a star. And when you deform something, for example, this is a corner of a mouth, this is some kind of a, at the cheek of a figure, it's not a good idea to keep this structure here, because you want evenly distributed polygons to make sure that the deformations and transformations are nice and smooth. Here, if you deform this shape, it can be pointy and it might be visible in your animation. So this is why you want to avoid triangles. Okay, now I will just delete it and take a look on the next step of adjustment. So I will do a selection, pressing Alt X, and I'm selecting points now, or no, keep it in edges. So edge, loop. This will select the entire set of edges, so all edges in the row are selected. And here what the trick will come into play. So show end result is turned on, and I will move this set of edges slightly to the x-axis and slightly to the y-axis. And as I do this, this shape is much more rounded. Okay, so undo it. Just 4 views. This is the top view, left view, front view, and perspective. And you are actually doing this. So you can do it at the same time. So you can drag the inside rectangle of the transformation gizmo of the select and move tool, and this way you are free to move them along. And take a look what happens. Because we have this edge around here, this center edge, the overall thickness, the overall width in the front view does not change significantly, but the roundness will change a lot. Okay, so even the left and the front views are really intact, but the overall roundness will change. Okay, that's fine. It's quite nice and round at the top. Okay, let's do this with the front section as well. So end result off, selecting one vertical edge, and using loop, selecting all the edges in a row, turning back on show end result, and now just selecting and moving it to make sure that it's fully rounded. That's fine, absolutely fine. Okay, of course we need a couple corrections, but this is the first initial step. Alt X and F4 to leave it. And now this is the basic shape of the body of the penguin. Okay, next step is coming. Thank you.